Hello, welcome to the channel. My name is Glen Irvine. In late May 2023, my partner and I embarked on our second walking trip in England. This year's trip included a 5-day warm-up in the Peak District, followed by a longer stretch on the famous coast-to-coast trail. It was bookended by a few very enjoyable days in London. As you will see in the video, we were self-contained, which meant that we camped a lot of the time, but we also stayed in small inns and hostels when available. This video is not a day-to-day account of the walk. Instead, I've created a travelogue where I've shown you the most interesting or picturesque parts of the trip. In the past, when documenting trips, I've taken a rather elaborate camera setup and peripherals. This year, I had just purchased a new iPhone 14 and a small DJI gimbal, and I was curious to see what could be done with this minimal camera setup. I've written and recorded all of the music, with one exception which I think you'll recognize. If you enjoy it, or have any use for it, it's available for free on SoundCloud, or contact me and I can send you the files. Finally, I hope this series of short videos inspires you to lace up the hiking boots and get out and enjoy a walk in England.
There's a French word, flâner, which means to stroll, to hang around, to dawdle. It's a good word because it implies that one is eager to fully embrace the randomness that is life, at a pace that is never rushed. One who flânes is a flâneur, literally a stroller, a wanderer. You're welcome to join two flâneurs, Ruth and I, as we flâner our way through central England's Peak District, and then along the famous coast-to-coast trail. This year's walking holiday started in the Peak District. Grindleford Station is a short ride from Manchester on the Northern Rail service. A quick bite and a coffee at the lovely Grindleford Station Cafe, and we were ready to go.
Bad reviews online, but tastes pretty good to me.
Where are we?
Grindleford Station Cafe. Good food and refreshments at reasonable prices.
The plan was to walk along the River Derwent to the town of Bakewell, where we had accommodation booked for the next 3 nights. As expected, it wasn't long before Ruth, my lovely but somewhat directionally challenged partner, became totally confused.
Yeah, except the other way.
What?
You said follow the hedgehogs, and then you pointed the opposite way we're going. Oh my God.
When we finally got going in the right direction, the Derwent Valley Heritage Way was a wonderful walk. The path follows the river through woods, beautiful pastures, and small English villages. The weather was with us, and the valley was resplendent with beautiful late spring colors, which made the day's walking exceptional. Fortunately, it was a harbinger of things to come. 4, or was it 5 hours after we set off, we arrived in the stunning little English village of Bakewell, beautifully situated on the banks of the River Wye. The Castle Inn, which would be our lodging for the next 3 nights, was ready to check us in, and luckily for me, the proprietors were willing to accommodate old dogs of both the canine and human variety. No time to dawdle, as it was time to go in search of the evening pint and meal. The Red Lion fit the bill nicely. Ruth is a lager drinker. For me, it's hard to beat a good pint of ale and a generous plate of bangers and mash with an accompanying Yorkshire pudding. A brief post-meal stroll to work off the meal, and it was time to retire for the evening. Most English inns offer a hearty breakfast, and we are up at the crack of dawn ready to sample the fare. Good for the soul, but not necessarily the waistline or the cholesterol count. I ordered the full English. For the uninitiated, the emphasis with this breakfast is on all things fried. The full English consists of fried bacon, fried sausage, fried eggs, I ordered mine poached, blood sausage, better not to ask what's in it, deep fried hash browns, baked beans, fried mushrooms, fried tomatoes, fried bread, and fried yogurt. Okay, I'm kidding about the fried yogurt, but I'm sure if there was a way to fry yogurt, the English would figure it out. This is not my regular breakfast back home, but as the saying goes, when in Rome, do as the Romans. And I must concede, it was darn tasty. Breakfast finished, it was time to explore the town. Bakewell is a delightful, albeit touristy place, well known as the home of the original Bakewell pudding, as well as the Bakewell tart. There's an interesting history behind the two, but I'll spare you. Some prefer the tart, some the pudding.
Well, tart.
And?
Bakewell pudding. You be the judge.
Bakewell also gives the walker or cyclist easy access to the Monsal Trail, a testament to the Peak District's industrial past. The trail, a former rail line built by the Midland Railway Company in 1863, serviced the mills and industries of the area. It has been converted into a picturesque greenway which is very popular with those who enjoy walking, cycling, or other forms of transportation.
Thank you.
Ruth and I would spend the day on the trail, enjoying the scenery and limbering up our legs in preparation for the coming more challenging days. Interestingly, many of the former mills along the river have been converted into holiday residences, popular amongst the Mancunians and Sheffielders, as well as tourists from further afield. As you can see, the late spring is a great time to walk in the fields. The lambing season is over and the little ones are out with their mums frolicking in the grass. Ruth and I very much enjoyed our first day on the trail, so we decided to hire bicycles and spend a second day exploring. In a leisurely 3 or 4 hours, one can easily cycle the entire length of the trail. Should you find yourself in Bakewell, this is highly recommended. It was time to leave Bakewell and head north towards the small town of Castleton, a comfortably meandering 2-day walk. A short but steep climb on one of the public footpaths took us immediately out of the valley. Perhaps this is a good time to mention the English tradition of the public footpath. In England, a public footpath is a path on which the public have a legally protected right to travel on foot. It's probable that most footpaths in the countryside are hundreds of years old. The walker is free to amble through farms and estates. So long as dogs are kept on leads, gates are closed, and walkers remain respectful, most people seem content with this arrangement. This is unusual for North Americans who are more accustomed to private property and no trespassing signs. I mentioned earlier that the Peak District was resplendent with late spring colors, so I suppose it's time to back this up with some proof. On a beautiful blue sky morning, pastoral England doesn't get prettier than this. A second short but steep climb took us on to moorland. In England, these areas are generally used for hill farming. A quick descent led us to the White House Farm campsite, our evening's accommodation. Time to pitch up, as the British say, and relax for the evening. Day 2 of our walk north was another extremely pleasant stroll over hill and dale. Passing through the former lead mining town of Bakewell, and on to our final destination of Castleton, where we would take the Northern Line back to Manchester. That is, if Ruth could get through the stiles.